All right, welcome back to another episode of Car Stories with Sung Kang.
And Emelia Hartford.
And today we get to talk to our dear friend, Dai Yoshihara. He is a living legend in the drift community, and we get to get a insight on his journey, his story of how he came to the United States, how he got into drifting, what makes him a great father.
Yeah, and it's a story about where he came from nothing, having moved from Japan, coming to the U.S., winning a championship drift league, and more than that, he races grip driving, has done Pikes Peak, which is a famous mountain course in Colorado Springs.
And he's just so zen.
Yeah.
You know, he just has this peace about him, and it's very hard for him to talk about himself. Maybe that's the Japanese thing, but I think having this conversation and hear his story, you learn a lot about why the community respects him so much.
Yeah, and I think a good takeaway is to treat others with kindness.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to surround yourself with the people that will help you pursue your dream.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Mr. Dai Yoshihara. So let's talk about your origins with drifting.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you started and where'd you learn it? Where'd you fall in love with it, and how you became a professional drift driver?
It's kind of a long story, but I'm from Japan, and I was one of those street racer back in the days. But also I've been always looking up to U.S. culture ever since I watched Top Gun, back in that was 86, but I watched the movie maybe early 90s. But anyways, those are two my interests, driving and U.S. culture. And long story short, actually that's right after Fast and Furious. In Japan, sport compact culture was kind of popping. You know what it is?
Explain for the audience.
Sports compact. It's kind of like a US DM custom cars, not just like drift cars or anything like that. It's more like Hondas, and so basically the cars from Fast and Furious. So around that time, I was really into that, and then I met the guy from the US, and who did the car show in the US at the time, and he's like, oh, maybe drifting will be the next thing. And I took him to the Japanese mountain road. He really liked it. And then a few months later, he invited me to compete in the U.S. Drifting competition. And that was my beginning.
So can you give us your history of your first car? Were you always into cars growing up, and where did you learn how to drive? And also Toge, for the listening audience, can you first let's explain what Toge is.
Okay, right. So Toge is basically a mountain road. So yeah, I would say Toge as a canyon road, I guess. So my first car was Toyota 86 Corolla, and yeah, I always wanted to get a car ever since I was a kid. So as soon as I get a driver license, I already had the car, which was $200, and then just every night I just put 10 liter gas, because gas is the most expensive thing at the time for me. So just put a 10 liter, which is 4 gallon maybe, and then just drive mountain all night until it gets empty, and then come back. So that's how I practice myself, maybe a year or so.
So you're self-taught?
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, but I watched a lot of videos. One of the popular one is the Drift Bible from Keiichi Tsuchiya.
Who is?
People call Drift King. Maybe you guys can explain who he is?
Keiichi Tsuchiya he's actually in Tokyo Drift.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So he is essentially known as the Drift King. And he started driving the A86 when he was young. And there's a manga called Initial D, very famous manga. And it's about this character, Takumi, that lives in the Toge Mountains and he delivers tofu. And he was a consultant on this manga. And that's why this, 1985-86 Hachiroku, Corolla A86, has become the grandfather of drift cars, right? And so Tsuchiya-san is still alive, and he would be like the Michael Jordan of drifting, right?
That's a very good way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, did he inspire you to get the A86? Was he like a hero of yours?
Yes. I mean, at the time, I didn't really it was like more like no choice because it was super cheap. It's not like this is a car I wanted to drive back in the days, right? But now this is still my favorite cars just because that's the car I learned how to drive. But yeah, so for sure, Tsuchiya-san helped a lot of people to, knowing this car. It's so different.
And be inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, where are you from in Japan?
I'm from Tokyo, but west side of Tokyo, which is a little bit countryside in a way. So it's pretty easy to access to the Toge, which is the canyon roads. Yeah.
Which Toge would you drive?
I have a few different, but should I name it?
Sure, yeah.
It's called Doshi Toge and then Odarumi.
So is that like saying Mulholland Canyon out
Pretty
here?
much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a few in the area, so just go there
And would you drift or would you just drive really fast?
I did drift specifically in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, are there a lot of police up there?
Yeah. I don't know if this kind of touchy subject, but because I think we should say no street driving, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But back in the days, there's a lot of cops, but we of course run away in here and there.
I thought you were going to say drive safely.
But yeah, in Japan's a little different. Like here, I think it's more crazy. But Japan, if you run away, then I don't think most police will really chase you too hard because it gets dangerous for the driver and then other people as well, right?
So they just let you go.
In a way, yeah. But most of the time, I try to pick most a quiet, nothing around, no home. So try not to piss people off, kind of thing.
Just not to disturb the peace.
Yeah.
It's very Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
I guess.
You're breaking the law, but you're doing it
Politely.
Oh yeah, kind of. You're right.
Well, what drew you to start drifting opposed to drag racing or track driving? What was the thing that called to you to become a drifter?
So before I get a driver's license, I was riding a motorcycle. In Japan, you get the license, driver's license, when you get 18, but you can get a motorcycle license at 16. So those 2 years, I was riding a motorcycle, and I was riding on the mountain one night, and then I just saw the car is drifting, coming at me, which is kind of scary, but it was so cool to see that. And from that moment, I'm like, I have to do this. So that's how I got into it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Was that car an A86?
No, I can't remember what was, but it was super cool moment, right? So, and then I started watching those videos and kind of study the culture. Yeah.
What did your parents think about you getting into cars and pursuing this journey as a professional drifter?
Yeah, of course. They were typical parents, so they didn't like it at all for a long time. Yeah.
What were they hoping you were going to do with your life?
Just regular stuff, go to the college and, work at, I don't know, some cool big company or something like that. Yeah.
What did your parents do for work?
Actually, my dad was working with his brother who had the used car dealer.
Oh, okay.
So he likes cars as well. So he kind of understood, but at the same time, he was keep telling me just get the like a normal job and kind of thing. So yeah.
So how did they feel about you coming to the United States and giving up your life in Japan? I mean, for our listeners too, I'd love you to maybe share like that journey of how you ended up in America,
Right?
Because it is like an almost a American dream success story. When I hear about it.
Yeah. Well, so kind of back to what I told you guys. I had one chance to come to the States to compete for drifting. So actually, a guy named Ken Miyoshi, who had the car show back in the days, and he, back in the days, of course, I didn't have money, so he got me a ticket to fly here, and he got me a place to stay, which is his house. And then I did one competition, and I did pretty good. I got like top 8. So that kind of opened up my opportunity. And back then, I was working for a used car dealer in Japan. But I thought that was a good opportunity. So after that, I quit the job, and then I started coming to the States. But of course, I didn't have a visa. So I have to stay here for like 2 months and then go back to Japan. I was basically back and forth.
At what age was this?
It was, I was 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah. And then slowly getting sponsors and stuff. And maybe a few months after, Formula Drift just started. So that was back in 2003. And then Formula D was started at the 2004. And I got sponsors and a team to compete for the season. So that was kind of like a second chance. And I just keep back and forth. And so long story short, 4 years after I finally got a visa, and then around that time, finally, I was able to make some money. And so that's kind of like when I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my career. Until then, I wasn't even sure. And then back to your question, my parents are like, what the hell you're doing? They understand that I like cars and I like the US, but they didn't think it's going to be a career. So it was kind of tough time, to be honest. Yeah.
So when you say sponsors, like, can you, because I have no experience on like, like what it takes to get a sponsor.
Right.
I mean, do they give you a salary so you're able to like pay rent and eat, or do they just pay for like your racing season to like maintain the car? Like, how does that work, especially when you're starting out?
Right. To do a race, it's gonna cost you, right? So just to get the car, cars cost, and you have to have a crew to maintain the car, and then especially drifting, you need the tires. So I was driving for a team, the team called Pacific Rim. So the owner is trying to get a sponsor to pay for it. So some were just the parts, for example, like tires. I was sponsored by Yokohama Tire back in the day, so they supply tires. And then some company give you some budget as well. And around that time, I don't think anybody was making money. So if the season costs you $100, if you can get like $90 for the sponsor, your out of pocket is like $10, right? So those are like the beginning of the drifting, and then I think slowly that dollar amount got bigger, so that the leftover will be my cart or the team owners.
So you're not making money really for a long time.
For a long time now, yeah.
Are professional drifters today actually making a good living?
I wouldn't say all of them. Maybe in the States it's still one of the biggest series. So I think maybe half who were making some money.
So then how do they actually like are able to stay competitive with like the guys that are making money? Like what do they do?
Yeah, so that's a kind of like a tough part of competition, right? Because if you're good, you get more support. So you can get even better. But if you don't have a support, it's hard for you to improve for doing a practice and getting better cars. Everything is cost you, right? So yeah, that's a tough one. A lot of new guys. I'm watching the Formula Drift these days. A lot of new talented driver, and they're doing good. So I think eventually they're gonna get bigger sponsors, and then that's how you kind of rotate, I guess. Yeah.
A lot of drivers also, on top of driving, do they not also run their own businesses to try to help supplement the cost?
Right. So I think that's a lot of people like that. They're doing a shop. They have a shop. They have a brand, and that's kind of like offset some of the cost of doing the race.
So when you moved over to America, did you experience America being what you thought it was going to be in your head?
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it easy transition?
No, because I couldn't really. I'm not really good at English, but even worse back in the days. So it was hard to even communicate. Just to go to drive-through, it took me a while to order some stuff that I wanted to. But yeah, it was really cool to be in here. But at the same time, I think at one point, also I realized, Japan is such a cool country too. Like, sometimes you kind of like look back and, kind of see from the outside. It's like a different perspective. And yeah, I remember like one time I was like, oh, maybe I should go back to Japan. Yeah.
How come you never went back?
I don't know why, but that was like one of the phase, and then after a while, I'm more comfortable in the States. So yeah, it's been like 15 years since I moved to the States now.
And you started a family now, right?
Right, yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yeah.
Girls, boys?
2 boys. Yeah.
How old are they?
8 and 5.
Are they into driving?
Not really.
No.
I know. Everybody asks me, but yeah, they're not. I mean, they like toys and stuff, but they're not really super into it. And I'm not really trying to push them to do it neither. And again, it's it's a expensive hobby, and it's really hard to make living out of it. So I don't want to push them. If they want to do it, I will try to support as much as I can. But yeah, I don't know. It's not cheap stuff to do. So
the saying is, in racing, it takes a big fortune to make a small one.
Yeah.
But Dai, you're fairly still very young. Like, why did you retire? No. Like, how old are you? Like 40?
45.
45.
Yeah.
I mean, is that like way beyond like the prime of a drift driver? It's like, is that why you retired? Like,
No,
I don't
really
understand why you retired. When you announced your retirement, I was like, where's he going? Like, what's he gonna do? Like,
Well, so I retired from Formula Drift, which is competitive drifting, right? But that's it. I still do everything else. I basically did Formula Drift. Okay, Formula Drift is one of the biggest drifting series in the world. And I've done since day one. And it's been 18 years for me. So,
wow.
I'm doing the same thing for a long time and kind of wanted to change it up. So, yeah, it's not really physically, I can't really compete or anything.
What? I don't understand. Is drifting like a young man's game?
No, not really. But
No?
it's kind of hard to explain. But if you're doing the same thing over and over, kind of getting old. You get what I mean? I mean, I still love drifting, driving wise, but the format of competition, there's a lot of stuff going on, like sponsors and judges and everything. So I kind of wanted to stay away for a little bit, at least, and see what the other opportunity. So, for example, I did a movie as a stunt driver last year, and then with you.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't happen if I was still competing in Formula Drift, because like we are on the shoot for like a few months.
Yeah.
And you can't be out for that long. Like once you're in the series, you have to commit. So,
right.
yeah.
And bless your heart, you were telling me when you're out there that you go straight from the movie to then go back for SEMA for a car that you built, to then go to another project.
Right.
You're definitely keeping busy with a lot of things.
Yeah. So yeah, those are actually kind of new thing to me. So yeah,
How was your experience like working on a movie?
it was
Assistant.
super cool.
Yeah.
One of the coolest experience I had. Yeah, just driving cars every day. Especially that was a racing movie, so like on the track, driving with a lot of people, and every single day on the race car, and getting paid every single moment. That was super dope. Yeah.
I mean, people think like when they watch a movie, they think like all the driving stuff must be so fun, but there's a lot of waiting around.
Oh, yeah,
and
it
it's
is.
kind of boring
Well,
at times. So
The saying's hurry up and wait, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think this movie was one of the fun one, because this was my first movie. I've done many commercials, but
This was your first movie?
for the movie, yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was super cool. But I worked with a lot of the movie industry stunt drivers, which the guys that done so many like Fast and Furious and all the big movies. But they say this movie, the one we did, was really fun to do, because not so much waiting. Pretty much every day was driving. So and once we were off, like couple days off, and just don't even go to the set, and we had some free times and stuff like that.
Did you get to drive in the movie?
I did not.
You didn't?
No, so how they shot it, and I imagine they've done things similar for Fast, was there was a cage on the roof of the car, and there'd be a driver on the roof controlling everything, the gas, steering input, and then I'm an actor in the driver's seat, and I can't see in front of me because they have like screens to protect light from being too harsh on the face and a bunch of cameras, and I'm turning the steering wheel trying not to get nauseous, acting like I'm driving when there's actually a driver on the roof of the car.
How would that feel, actually? I was curious about that, especially how to drive. And yeah, it seems like it's hard to act because you don't know what really the car's gonna do, right?
It was definitely nauseating.
I bet.
And there would be times where the director would be like, all right, someone's passing you on your right. And because you can hear everything the director, in our case, Neil Blomkamp, was saying.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't natural in racing for someone to pass you on the right in this turn. So you'd still be acting. That's the job. But as a driver, you're like, but no one would pass me on the right here. This doesn't make sense.
It was like perfect casting, wasn't it, to have Emelia in that movie?
Yeah, I know.
Right? But it's frustrating that you don't get to actually drive.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you tell them you can drive?
Oh, they trust me. I tried to let them. I wanted to drive the cage car. I wanted to be on the roof and get to do donuts in that or something.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
For the listening audience, a cage car, you want to kind of explain what that is? Because,
it's basically where the driver's sitting on the roof. A lot nowadays, throttle and brake, it was an automatic car, so throttle and brake are now, it's called drive-by-wire. It's basically electronic, so they can move the pedals wherever they want on the car, and it still does the same thing as if it were in the car. And someone's just driving on top of the roof with steering wheel, and you have a steering wheel that doesn't really do anything on the inside.
And they have to make like 7 versions of the car because if you need like a rear view, they cut the back of the car, they cut the roof of the car. Sometimes the car is like lifted up onto like a frame, and then the camera's on the floor to get all these reactions, right? And it's funny because people, they meet me and they go, because of the Fast and Furious movies, they just assume that I'm you. Like I can drift. And then,
what do you mean you can't?
Yeah, I can. But the movies make it look like I know what I'm doing, right? But it's all pretend.
Right.
So, I mean, for the listeners out there, it's like, they do a great job with the special effects to make us look like what, we know what we're doing. But, I think, stunt drivers, they do not get the credit that they deserve, because when you see the cars actually drifting on the track or on the Toge, I mean, there are real people like yourself driving and putting their lives at risk. So I always try to give the people that make us look good the credit. We had Samuel Hubenet.
Yeah.
He was my stunt double for Tokyo Drift. And he would always have a wig on, and they put all this like brown makeup on him to make him look like me. But he's the one that made me look like Han, look great at drifting. So thank you for what you're doing. And you guys deserve so much credit.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys are putting your lives in danger.
Yeah. So I want to let's go into like you know, there are these conversations about, you know, people talking about how hard it is to pursue your dreams, right? And that the idea, the notion of like the American dream is over, right? That, you know, the system or, you know, it's impossible to like pursue your dreams today, right? And for those people that have those type of like complaints, like you are a perfect example of the American dream happening, right? And if you were to give advice or share some of your like philosophy of how you approach things in your life and how you go and attack it, right?
Yeah, it's very hard, right? Even like myself, I didn't really have like specific goal. I want to be here, so I'm gonna do this. I wasn't like that, to be honest. I was like super lucky to know a lot of people who were able to help me, and at the end, I got to the, you know, the spot that I wanted to be, which was I'm super fortunate. But I guess you gotta be out there and you gotta tell what you want to do, all, you know, as many people as possible, and yeah, I guess you gotta be out there, right? I don't know. What do you think? Like just promote yourself in a way,
Sure.
because you can't really achieve by yourself.
You gotta ask. You gotta tell people what you want.
Yeah, I'm not saying like begging to help, but kind of, you know, outspoke to what you want to be in a way, I guess.
Yeah, surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
Not be afraid to share what you're trying to do. Have
Right.
mentors. You must have had different mentors throughout your life.
I guess, yeah. But I always have a lot of good people helping me for some reason, which, yeah.
But what do you mean for some reason?
Yeah.
What is the reason? I mean, I know it's hard to talk about yourself, Dai, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna help the listening audience kind of find a, you know, like a template or a road that they could follow to pursue their dreams, right? Like, how did you surround yourself with these good people that helped you?
So that's something I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, that's why I don't want to say I'm lucky, but I guess, you know, try to cool to those people, try to be cool so that people can cool back to you, right? That's one thing I've been trying to be nice to, you know, all the people I met. I don't know if that's just the reason. But yeah, I just got to know a lot of people who were able to help me in, you know, at the end of the day, so.
You're also a championship driver, so there's more than, I think, networking, right?
Yeah.
There's hard work that goes into it. Do you feel like you have a different work ethic than others, which helps you to be as successful as you are?
As like a driving wise, right?
Sure. Or in life?
No, really. Maybe I need to work more to get better, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But when I won a championship was 2011, which is a long time ago. So maybe the level was not as crazy as these days, which is kind of lucky for me, right? I was there in the beginning, like learning drifting as the series growing up. So, so if 2011 me compete now, there's no way I can do well.
I think you're just really humble.
Am I?
Yeah.
You know, I know it's so hard to talk about yourself, but you know, when I've gotten to know you over the years, Dai, and the people that surround you, you know, they have so much respect for you. You know, not only are you like easy to just hang out with, and you know, it's nice to like crack a beer with you and just shoot the shit and just hang out, but you know, there is this like reverence. There is this like, wow, this is Dai, right? And you know, and I think it's like something in the way that how you carry yourself and your kind of approach to like, you know, not only driving, but then your approach as a person, right? And
Yeah.
And that's something that I think, like, for any aspiring like professional driver, or with anybody with like a dream in their life, it's not just like how you conduct yourself on the track, but how you conduct yourself in daily life. And something that I have always like really respected about you is this balance that you have with your family. And like, how did you, like, I know a lot of people, when they're career oriented, they just think about their career and they pretty much abandon like their family responsibilities. Like, can you speak on that? Like how you approach balancing your career and your family?
Yeah. So I have a, excuse me. I have a 8-year and 5-year-old sons. So yeah, it's been like almost 10 years being the family man. So it definitely changed. Back then, I was more focusing on my career, but also I have a really well understanding wife. So that's a good help as well. She never complained about it, and she's basically dealing with the kid like 24/7. I mean, of course, I help as much as I can, but it's really, compared to her, nothing. So I realize I have a really good understanding wife. Yeah, and this kind of career, that's kind of like necessary in a way,
because you're always away.
Yeah.
Has having kids changed you in any way?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, having a kids, it's basically your priority, right? So to me, in a way, when I was competing, I don't want to make it sound in a wrong way, but I think some people get more hungry, but in a way, I lost my hunger a little bit. So that's kind of part of the reason why I decided to quit competing in FD as well. Maybe I shouldn't share this, but yeah, like it definitely changed.
Wait, what do you mean you lost your hunger? Hunger for winning or racing?
No, yeah, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's different.
Hunger to stay up at 4 o'clock in the morning, making sure the car is good?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Like now it's a balance, right? Like when I was single and then when I was like hunting for the championship, like that was the only thing. But now I have a family and kids. So in a way I couldn't be like as hungry or as like focused on this. Maybe that's a bad thing, but yeah.
No, it's not a bad thing. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Shows your priorities with your family, not with winning in racing.
I mean, that's one of my, like, I would say I have very few regrets in life, right? Like I try to live in the moment and just keep moving forward. But when I was in my 30s, my wife had asked me, she said, do you think we're going to have children? And I will never forget what I told her. I looked at her in her eyes, and her mother actually said that if you guys have kids now or a child now, I'll help you raise this child, because I know you guys still have to go and like pursue your career, and and time is tight, money is tight. And I looked at my wife and I said, do you think I came to like LA, or I'm staying in LA to like have a family? Like I came here to like make it in Hollywood, and until I do, I am not going to have children. And that's why I have no kids. And, I wouldn't say like I've made it, but, now the fact that, I've had a career and, and I can afford to like raise a family, the fact that I don't have it, in hindsight, I go, this was like the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life.
Not having kids.
Yeah. And I think about like legacy, like you go, what is my legacy? It's going to be like, being in a bunch of like Fast and Furious movies. Like I thought that was important, but today I realize like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not, and every day I wake up, and I have to like search for like a purpose to like continue, because, I think when you have children, naturally priorities change, your focus change, the way you see the world changes, you know, for most people, you know, they have their head on straight, right? And that's something that on a daily basis, like I'm looking for to go, like, what is my, like, you know, reason to be alive on this earth, you know, and definitely being in a bunch of Fast and Furious movies is not it, you know, and, you know, I have a wife that, you know, just like your wife would have been supportive, even if we had no money, even if I was working at McDonald's, you know, like she would still pursue. I mean, she would still support me pursuing my dream, you know, and, you know, I share this with a lot of people that, you know, that are younger and say, well, you know, I'll wait till one day, but one day will show up and it's going to be too late. You know, my wife, we can't have kids because she got cancer and that put her into menopause, and life, you know, fucking punches you in your face and then kicks you in your balls, and then you wake up one day and you go, yeah, I might have this, but I don't have the stuff that is important, right? And a lot of times I feel like completely like lost, you know, guys, is really because, and that's why I search for people like you, right? And like ask these questions of like, you know, how did you change? Like, and I can see that there's just this natural peace with you, you know, because I'm sure your children and your family give you like this, you know, like sure footing. They give you a foundation, you know, and they give you like this North Star, right? Which I feel like I don't have. You know, I meet, you know, men that are fathers, that are good fathers, and they walk differently than I do, you know, and I'm still searching for it, you know, and people say, yeah, you know, why don't you adopt and stuff? But, you know, I'm in my 50s now, and my wife, you know, she does not want to adopt because she doesn't know if the cancer is going to come back, you know, and she doesn't want to have a child go through this stuff, like, you know, with a parent. And it's really weird because I think about it and I go, you know, when I become older, right, and I become like a senior citizen, and let's say I get sick, or, you know, I can't even wipe my butt one day, like, you know, who's going to be there? Right? And that's really scary, right? That's why in many ways, like if my wife passes away before me, I don't really want to be around too long because I don't have a reason to be alive. And that's why I'm always searching. That's why the whole point of this podcast is to like find these answers, because I don't have them. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Wow, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I urge people out there, if like they're afraid to have kids and they're using excuses like, you know, I have to wait till I make money, or I have this and that. You know, it's one day it's going to be too late.
Yeah. I'll admit that that's a weight on my shoulders about having kids or not, because I don't think I'm ready, and I don't know what that ready is. But I weigh those same options that I'm scared to get older and not have anyone, someone to raise or take care of, and also to take care of me when I get too old. And it is the legacy of what you want to leave behind on this earth. Because at the end of the day, like, a lot of stuff that you think matters when you're young, like, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what's holding you back then?
I don't know. This is a new thing I'm starting to weigh. I fortunately still have time. I just turned 30. I don't know. We'll keep the engineer. But it's definitely something that as I'm getting older, I'm like, okay, I need to put this on my radar if it's going to happen, and make sure I'm conscious of it, because I don't know that I want to. I'd rather, you know, want the opportunity to have children and choose not to than want them and not be able to. I think that's my biggest fear. So just kind of weighing that. So it's interesting to hear you talk about that being one of your larger regrets in life.
Yeah.
Because I fear that time going by too quickly, and I'm so excited about what I'm doing today that as I get older, that window closes or that door closes.
But you could probably balance both. I mean, knowing you, I mean, you could juggle both. And
I'm good at juggling things.
yeah. And, you know, outside looking in, like, how amazing would it be to have you as a mother?
That's sweet of you.
Really, I mean, like what you represent, you know, just as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, you know, how you approach your life and what you also represent to other women and, you know, the car community. And, you know, I think, like, if you had some daughters, man, they would be like, you know, they would have like a badass mom, right? So
growing up, I used to always think I'd want a boy, but now that I got older, I'm like, yeah, I'd want to raise some badass chicks.
I think about if I had daughters, I would spoil them to death. But if I had sons, I don't know. If,
yeah, right.
You know, like, are you hard on your sons? Are you strict with them?
I think so.
Yeah.
Are you gonna make them buy their first car?
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy them.
Yeah. Are you gonna kick them out at 18? What's your parenting style?
That depends.
Do they have to get a job?
So kind of back to, like, you know, if you ask, like, if my kids likes cars, I say if they like it, I want to support. But financially, I don't think I would. It's just the way, you know, my parents didn't help me, so I don't think that's the way to do. Yeah. So that's my style in a way.
I think I would, and this is just I think, and, you know, everything's, I say this now and then, you know, I have kids and that they spoil them, but I think because seeing what happened to me growing up, I almost would prefer my children to want to learn the value of a dollar, to want to understand what hard times are, and to have to go through it to ground themselves, because I'd be too scared of having someone who is just expectant of things, you know?
I'm with you on that one for sure.
Like I wouldn't want a daughter or son or a child or something to expect a first car, to expect the new, Mom, the Nintendo Switch is out and I have to get it, but you already have one. You know, it's like, well, this is how much it would cost. This is how you'd have to work. This is what minimum wage is now. If you worked X amount of hours, how long until you could afford this? Is this where you'd want your money to go? Or do you think it's better to invest? You invest with me. I'll give you a percentage, an annual interest of something, you know? I don't know. I feel like I'd want to educate them at a young age, but it's also hard to do because I know they give you little puppy eyes and they're like, but please.
But who taught you that, like, fiscal responsibility?
I had to teach myself. When my dad took his life, I went to school the next day because I didn't know what else to do. You know, no one tells you those things. And I was actually sitting in a finance class. I went to a continuation. This was my third high school at the time. And they were talking about CDs and where to best put your money, which I thought, one, was great that I was at this continuation that was teaching you finances, but I just had this very vivid thought of, oh God, like, I don't have a parent to teach me these things. I don't have someone that I can go to who knows finances. Like, I'm on my own when it comes to money. And then shortly after that, the principal came in, pulled me out of class, was like, oh my God, I just found out what had happened. And they started calling therapists in to come talk to me and all that. But that was a very pivotal point, was sitting in that class and being like, I got to start learning because no one's going to teach me.
That's good you learned that really young.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to know that stuff. And unfortunately, they don't really teach that in schools. So you kind of have to, you know, go outside of your network sometimes or find a mentor or someone who can teach you that.
Yeah, because I was raised, like, to be afraid of money, right? And as soon as, like, I had an opportunity to have some money, like, I would spend it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was raised in scarcity, you know? Like, my mother was so, like, afraid of not having money because, you know, she was a war child from, like, the Korean War. So they grew up super poor. Like, her idea of having, like, white rice was like a luxury, right? So, you know, she made sure, like, we had nothing and, like, everything was about saving, but then saving for what, right? Like, it's not, we're not going on family vacations or anything. And it's, you know, there's no purpose for that money except for just to hoard it because you're living in scarcity. And then I remember in college, they were giving out like these $500 credit cards to students, just like this. And I spent it in a day.
Really?
And then it took 7 years to fix my credit because I didn't have the money to pay that back. It was just $500. I mean, $500 when you're in college is a lot of money, right? And it ruined my credit. And it took 7 years to fix that. And that's where having a fiscally like responsible like partner like my wife, who was raised with money, so she was not raised in scarcity, so she's not afraid of money, but she knows how to use money to make money, right? Which that concept like never made sense to me, right?
I think I'm the opposite, where I'm actually very scared to spend money because I'm scared of not having it. I'm really bad about buying myself new clothes. I've gotten better as I've gotten older. But obviously for what I do, I also have to buy cars to modify them. And it's so hard for me to check out on Summit or wherever I'm buying my car parts or whenever I'm buying a car, because it's just so difficult to spend it. But
how about you, Dai? Is it hard to spend money on your cars?
Yes and no. But I guess I'm more like your side in a way.
Fiscally irresponsible.
Yeah. And my wife is opposite.
Yeah.
She's like saving kind of thing. So yeah, maybe because of that, I have a good balance. And I can like do whatever I want because I feel like she can stop me if I have to.
So you spend until she tells you, hey, maybe you should slow down a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish there was, I wish somebody had taught me like what, like how to invest and how to spend money and where to spend money when I was younger, because it took a long time. Like that credit thing, like
That's a scary thing to have.
Yeah. People don't realize like how important credit in America is. I mean, you're trying to like buy a house or you're trying to like go get a new car, and your credit is like zero. I think my credit score was like negative. You know what I mean?
Oh, geez.
It was so bad. And based off of one credit card.
Wow.
Credit cards scared me. I didn't get a credit card until maybe 5 years ago. I debit or cash everything.
Wow.
So then when I needed the money to buy like a reliable Prius to drive around, I couldn't get a loan for $4,000 or $5,000 because I had no credit.
Yeah. So what are you doing now that you've retired?
So I still race cars and drifting demos. So for example, I'm going to a Formula Drift event and then do ride-alongs. And also I've been competing this series called TC America, which is a road racing series. And I'm doing the whole season.
So this is like an amateur
it's a
event?
professional series.
So you're still racing then?
Yeah. So that's what I mean.
So you're not retired.
Retired from Formula Drift specifically.
I think you misunderstood. Yeah, that's why I was saying I just retired from Formula Drift. That's it. I'm still doing everything the same. I do Pikes Peak.
Okay, for the listening viewers that don't know what Pikes Peak is, can you explain?
Pikes Peak is the hill climb race, which held in Colorado Springs once a year. I guess it's one of the biggest hill climb in the world.
So can you explain to me what the deal with Pikes Peak is? Like why is it so famous, and why is it part of like motor sport, like lore and history? Like, why is it such a big deal?
Pikes Peak is one of the oldest race in the States. I think a second oldest or something. So they just did 100 times. So it's been over 100 years. And they use the street. Basically, it's like I said, a Toge, the canyon road. They just closed that from 9,000 feet to the summit. The Pikes Peak is the name of the mountain. And the summit is like 1,400 feet, which is pretty high.
1,400 or 1,000?
I'm sorry, 14,000. I'm sorry. So 9,000 to 14,000. Yeah. So yeah, because I think it's using the street, not the racetrack, and then one of the oldest racing in the U.S. That's why I think the Pikes Peak is one of the famous race in the world.
Well, I think too, when cars were carbureted and so basically the elevation of air, as you know, people listening know, just as a reminder, the higher you get in elevation, the less oxygen there is. So it's also a test to the engineering, the mechanics of the car too, because you can't just pull over and tune it for different oxygen or airflow as you get higher. So I think that was a big part of the difficulties of racing Pikes Peak. Am I right in saying that, Dai?
Yeah, you're right. So that's one of the biggest challenge for the race. And also you have to deal with the weather, and from the start to the finish, like a big difference on the weathers and even like temperatures and stuff like that. And you don't know until the day of. So there's a lot of like unknown boundaries compared to like racing on the track.
And very often people die racing this.
Not nowadays, but yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the days.
But you always hear about somebody like
going off
the cliff.
I've seen videos of it.
But nowadays cars are a lot safer too. So I think risks are less than, back in the days, I hope.
Assuming you have someone who did a good cage.
Yeah, exactly. The cages are very important.
Right, cage, seats, harness. But now you're looking at that more closely.
Yeah, exactly. So those like a little detail, I start more paying attention because that's like, saving my life.
What makes a great driver, Dai, in your opinion?
What makes great driver?
Yeah.
I think that who can perform your best anytime you wanted to. Like you said, you kind of have to be in the zone, and you can control that. That's very like internal thing, I think. Especially like a drifting. You only have a one shot. If you have a mistake in the one run, you're out. You have to like put your 100% to the run. So put people who can provide that when they need to, which is like a strong insight. I think that makes you a great driver.
Yeah. So, when young folks talk about like how hard things are in life, it's supposed to be hard. And just like, in driving, it's like, if it was easy, all these weekend warriors on the track would be doing what you're doing.
Right. That's
right?
true. Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard, Yeah. But yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, Emelia?
Not really. I do think a lot of hard work has gone into where you are today, whether you talk directly about it or not. I don't think you give yourself enough credit, but I think a lot of people look up to you because you're a phenomenal driver, not just with drifting, but with also road racing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you don't just wake up one day with that skill, you gotta learn it. You're self-taught. You come from another country and you've really built this successful family and business and career that you have.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's interesting with you, Dai, is that, you're so resistant on talking about yourself, right? And the reason we wanted you as a guest is because, there's this like patience with you. There's this like kind of, stoic kind of zen to you. And you just do instead of talking, right? And I think that's why so many people in the community respect you and look up to you. When you bring up Dai, there's never a response of I hate that fucking guy. Right?
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Yeah.
Or that guy's full of shit, right? No, there isn't.
And people respect you.
Yeah. And that says a lot about how you carry yourself. And I think that's something to learn. I think the more people and younger folks that are around you that are aspiring to be in the driving community or go into professional driving, it's just be patient, right? And just keep doing instead of talking, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't have a confidence, and I'm still searching, who I am. So maybe that's why I couldn't really talk about myself. I have a lot of, what do you call it, right moment, right people, right timing kind of thing. And yeah, just appreciating all the people around me, including you guys as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much.